Every challenge coin holds a story. The unit, the deployment, the handshake it was pressed into your palm with. But stories fade unless someone saves them. Allcoin lets you digitize your coins and the stories behind them, a lasting record of what your service meant and who you served it with. Preserve your story free at allcoin.brav.co because your service is worth remembering.
Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the Lost Art Project Veterans Voices. I'm your host, Andrew Cox, and today we're having one heck of a veteran story. I think everyone's going to love this one. I'm excited to hear it. But if you're enjoying these podcasts, go and check out our website. That's the Lost Art Project, veteransvoices.org. See what we're all about. We are a new nonprofit, so if there's any way you can help us out, it'd be much appreciated. A big shout out to the Till Valhalla Project out there doing amazing things. If you don't know anything about that project, go and check them out. Even if you do, go back and check them out again. Truly an amazing organization. I got to say, it's been wonderful getting to say that every single time. So you can find them at tillvalhallaproject.com. I also want to bring up the Allcoin. Now, you saw a commercial for that just a little bit ago, but everybody that comes on the podcast will get a digital coin that will be sent out. Then it's a Lost Art Project specifically for coming on the show. So I'm excited about that. And thanks to Allcoin for letting that happen. And with that, don't forget the Marine Corps League, right? They have now VSOs. So make sure you go hit up their VSOs. You can find them at mcleague.org. Do the VSO locator. That's 703-207-9588, extension 299.
Are you a Marine veteran? Are you missing that bond you had on active duty? Then I have a place for you. Join the only congressionally chartered Marine Corps Veteran Service Organization, the Marine Corps League. Get that brother and sisterhood back in your life. Become one of the fewer, the prouder, a Marine Corps League member.
All right, here we are, man. I'm excited. I have General Lukeman with me today. And Jim, I'm so excited that you're here. I got the opportunity to serve with you just a little bit of time there at 2nd Marine Division. And man, what a good time it was. But Jim, welcome. How you doing?
Thanks, Andrew. Great to be here. I'm doing great.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm excited to hear your story. Even though you say there's not much there, I promise you there's something there, and it's going to be fantastic. Well, let's go back to the beginning. Where did it all start? Where did you grow up? What was that like? And then what eventually drew you to military service?
Yeah. Well, so my dad was a Marine. So I was actually born at Parris Island because he was stationed at Parris Island when I was born. And I was born at Beaufort Naval Hospital. And so I grew up in the Marine Corps. He stayed in the Marine. My father was a Marine for 35 years. He actually retired as a lieutenant general, which is pretty amazing. And then so I grew up my whole life in the Marine Corps. I lived at from Beaufort. We went to Jacksonville after that, to Camp Lejeune. We were in DC. We was in Hawaii, Pendleton. Back East Coast again, back to Pendleton. All around.
You were everywhere
as a Marine. He did a couple tours in Vietnam during that time, and then. So when I started thinking about what I was going to do after high school and going to college, I was like, okay, I did okay in high school, so I figured I'll try to get an ROTC scholarship. But it was never a given that I was going to be a Marine. It wasn't like I was raised, you're going to be a Marine. You got no choices. That's it. That's what you're going to do. It wasn't the way my father was. He was pretty, open about whatever it is we wanted to be. But I guess just by seeing the Marine Corps my whole life and being around it, I said, 4 years in the Marine Corps will do me some good. I could use some discipline, so I'll go ROTC in college. So I got an ROTC scholarship and became a Marine option and joined the Marine Corps after that. So my upbringing was all around the Marine Corps. That's how I grew up.
Traveled everywhere. That's pretty amazing. Not everybody gets that opportunity, and some people don't like that opportunity. I get it. It's a hard upbringing sometimes, but you get to go to a lot of places.
Yeah, and I never, I asked my children the same thing after living a life in the Marine Corps, if they felt, cheated somehow because you moved during your middle of high school,
right?
And you have to start over with the teams and start over with all that stuff. And neither one of my daughters say they felt any problem with that. I never felt that either. Going from place to place, I seemed to be doing fine, and so
right.
I enjoyed growing up in the Marine Corps. It was great.
Very nice. Now, when you were going to college, what did you go to college for?
I went to the University of Notre Dame, and I studied chemical engineering. So I figured I was going to get out of the Marine Corps after 4 years and go make $1 million working for Phillips Petroleum or somebody. That was my plan.
Good plan.
And didn't work out. I didn't get out of the Marine Corps afterwards. But a great time there at the at University of Notre Dame. They have an assistant Marine officer instructors. So mine was Staff Sergeant, then Gunnery Sergeant Mac Elvington, who was one of the first role models. He was the assistant MOI there at the University of Notre Dame. He ended up retiring as a sergeant major.
Oh, okay. Very nice. Yeah, that's a great gig for those enlisted guys going out there. I never got that opportunity, but everyone that's done it says it's fantastic. So they definitely put their mark on the Marine Corps.
They do. They put their mark on a lot, because it's not just the Marines either. It's all the Navy midshipmen as well that are in the unit. I ended up being a Marine officer instructor myself, an MOI, later on in life. The Marines do a lot for not just the Marines, but for the Navy as well.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome. Now, once you graduate, let's go back. I got a question. When was it that you joined? I didn't hear that part.
Right. So I joined the Marine Corps. I was graduated from Notre Dame in 1980 and was commissioned in the summer of 1980. Went to basic school. So I started in 1980, and then I ended up retiring 6 years ago in 2020. So just a little over 40 years on active duty. Which is amazing. I never anticipated that was going to happen. I thought I'd do 4 years and then I'd get out.
Yeah.
And then the first I was down at Camp Lejeune as a second lieutenant, and then after that first tour of duty, got ordered up to Quantico. And so when I was down at Camp Lejeune, so I wasn't married when I first came into the Marine Corps, and but had a girlfriend, and so we ended up she went to work after college, and I went to the Marine Corps, and so we kept in touch, and we're still dating. So then I got married a couple of years into the Marine Corps, and she quit her job in Washington, D.C., came down to Jacksonville, North Carolina. We rented a little apartment for $240 a month out on Gumpy.
Oh, wow.
The 7-Eleven across the street with the light shining in the window at night, and the Civic was the only car we had. I got up, drove dark 30, took the car in, came home at night, passed out, did that next day. So she wasn't happy, with this little arrangement.
Right.
So I said, okay, well, I'll just get out of the Marine Corps, and we'll move on. Well, then we got ordered up to Quantico for my second tour of duty, and she went back to work in DC. I'm working at Quantico in a job that's not as demanding as being in the fleet. And so I'm thinking, why am I getting out again? This is okay. Staying after that second tour, and then the rest is history. Stayed after that.
Wow. Now, when you were at Lejeune, infantry officer, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. So while you were at Lejeune, what unit was it, the first unit that you went to?
1st Battalion, 2nd Marines. And so I check in, Second Lieutenant Lukeman checks in the summer of 80. Actually, it was 81, because I finished the basic school in IOC. So it was spring of 81 when we finished IOC. So I think it was March. I check in down at 1st Battalion, 2nd Marines. The battalion commander is John Ripley, the now Medal of Honor recipient just recently, but hero at Dong Ha. That's my battalion commander. So
wow,
I was fortunate to be a part of that outfit for a little while.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Now, what were things that stuck out to you while you were at that unit?
Well, that was, I learned a lot at 1st Battalion, 2nd Marines, because, I wasn't a very good second lieutenant. That may be the case for a lot of brand new second lieutenants, that there's a lot to learn in that organization. In the first platoon I got put into, so it was just a staffing thing, a management thing. When I showed up, they said, okay, well, you're going to be in the 81's platoon commander, not a rifle platoon, but the 81's platoon, and which is great. It's a big platoon. You got a gunnery sergeant as the platoon sergeant. But this is 1981, and the Marine Corps was struggling a bit with the people in the Marine Corps back then. So I think we had about, I don't know, a third of the outfit was UA. My platoon sergeant, Gunny Barnes, was an alcoholic. My company commander, Vietnam veteran, was an alcoholic. So I wasn't getting a lot of guidance, and so I was not doing all the right things as a brand new second lieutenant. So learn the hard way a little bit and figure things out. Some great people though. First sergeant was terrific. Another Vietnam veteran, and he was great. So just a lot of great people in that battalion. But what happened was I got transferred after about a year at 81's. They moved me to Alpha Company, a rifle company, to take a rifle platoon with a terrific company commander named Dave Dodder, some other lieutenants to work with. So 81's, you're all by yourself. There's no other lieutenants there. It's just you.
Wow.
But in a rifle company, you got, 3 other platoon commanders, XO, and a company commander, and everybody to hang out with. Alpha Company was terrific. I learned a lot from those guys and learned how to be a Marine Corps officer. And then took weapons platoon and some other things in one too. So I learned a lot that first deployment, that first, assignment at 1st Battalion, 2nd Marines.
Wow. And did you go on any deployments, anything like that while you were there?
We did 2. Did we do 2 to Okinawa? It was UDP to Okinawa is what we did.
Okay.
And we did a deployment to Norway as well. That's right. We did a UDP to Okinawa for 6 months. That was great. And then we did like a 4-month float to Norway for exercise Cold Winter 83. So winter Norway, 150 miles north of the Arctic Circle, everything's snow, snowshoes, all the white gear. We're wearing like Korean War vintage gear though. I mean, there was no Gore-Tex. It hadn't been invented yet. This is 1983. And so, we're wearing cotton stuff with liners and gloves and things. Those big canvas tents. It was a lot of fun. That was a great experience. But yeah, it was
I like how you put that. It's a lot of fun.
So the gear in the winter, when it snows super deep and you drop the pintle for your M60 machine gun and it disappears into the snow, and then everybody's trying to find it, before you have to move out from the site, because you got to find all the gear. But it provides its own challenges. I can imagine what the dudes at Chosin must have been feeling, because it was great up in Norway.
Wow. Now, did you guys get to do the cold water plunge as well? I see a lot of people that do the training, they do that.
Yeah, we did not. I don't know when they started doing that cold water plunge. That's what they all do now, but we did not do that back then. We went up to Camp Ripley, Minnesota for cold weather training before the deployment. Because I guess it was cold up there, and it was, but I don't know what had anything that looked like Norway, but that's where we were. That was a lot of fun. Norway deployment. There's a lot of good memories from that one. One of my fellow platoon commanders was over in recon at the time with us, and one of his Marines ended up shooting a reindeer. And reindeer in Norway are like cattle. They're not like wild deer.
Oh, really?
That's like he shot somebody's cow. Basically, is what he did. He shot a deer. But Marines. Yeah.
You got to love it. International incident right there. It's good times. Yeah.
It was neat. Yeah.
Well, let's see. So
I learned a lot that first time in 1st Battalion, 2nd Marines. About how to lead Marines and what the right way to do things was. By making a lot of mistakes, actually. That's how I learned a lot.
Well, I am really good at that part. I make the mistakes and learn from them. So you would think I would learn from other people's mistakes more, but sometimes it's just not that way.
Yeah.
So.
Well, especially when you're young, you got to do it, right?
Yeah. That's right.
They tell you not to touch the electric fence, but you still got to reach out and touch it. Right?
That's right. You got to see for yourself.
Right.
I love it. So then you get married down there. You go up to Quantico. Now, tell me what you were doing at Quantico and how was that?
Right. So I got assigned to the Staff Non-Commissioned Officer Academy, a staff NCO academy, which had officers back then. Nowadays we don't have any officers in; it's all run by staff NCOs. But back then there were officers there. So I go from my first battalion commander is John Ripley. When I check in up at Staff NCO Academy, well, Jim Williams was the CEO, but he gets replaced by Wes Fox. So now I'm working for Wesley Fox, another Medal of Honor recipient from Vietnam, who is like an animal. I mean, this guy, he's older at that time. I imagine he might have been 50. Because I remember thinking, oh my God, this guy is amazing. He's 50 years old. He's doing 20 pull-ups. He's running 3 miles. He's doing all the stuff. He was a great person to work for and a great example. Because he was I think he might have almost been a first sergeant when he was promoted to second lieutenant. He had just about all.
Wow.
Because he was a private at Cho Sin Reservoir. He was a young Marine at the Cho Sin Reservoir, and then fought up through during Vietnam is when he became a lieutenant. So I don't remember his whole career. Yeah. And then ended up retiring as a colonel later. But so I worked for Wes Fox at Staff NCO Academy. So what I learned there, though,
that's incredible.
Was, I was in charge of the career course. And so we had a first sergeant and 8 or 10 gunnery sergeants who'd been hand selected to be the instructors for the sergeants and staff sergeants course that was there. So all these gunnies were good. They were selected because they're good. So what I learned again, I'm still a first lieutenant, then captain. While I was there, I got promoted to captain. I learned what staff NCOs could do. I learned what staff NCOs can do, which is you need to learn that. I mean, I needed to learn and understand how valuable that is and what they can do. And my role as an officer with the staff NCO, because as a second lieutenant, I tried to do too much myself. Right, I was trying to do, and I had great platoon sergeants in Alpha Company when I was there. Staff Sergeant Vineyard, Sergeant Cooley, characters, and I don't know where they are today. I haven't linked up with them recently, but they were characters back then. But seeing those staff NCOs at the Staff NCO Academy that worked with us there, that was a tremendous learning experience for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, overall, your experience there at the academy, what was kind of your other than the staff NCOs, what was your kind of highlights that you saw there?
Yeah. Teaching leadership which is mostly what we were teaching. You're teaching staff, staff NCOs how to move on. So it's mostly, there's some drill and that kind of stuff, but it's mostly, how to be a leader. So when you teach that and you see enough people teaching that, you get a lot of, those lessons get embedded in you as well.
Right.
So it's a great experience to be there. The other takeaway I had from that one, it was a classic B billet tour. So again, I don't know how it was for you, but from when you go from the fleet to what we call on the off side of B billet, now I'm on staff. I could have been wasn't doing infantry work. I could have been doing any work at that point. And the routine and the schedule is different. In the fleet, you're there, 24/7, you're in the field, you're back, you're deployed, all that kind of stuff. All of a sudden I'm at Quantico and we're working like regular hours. It's kind of mostly Monday through Friday, mostly come in the morning, mostly go home at night. All of a sudden you got free time and you can have hobbies and things like that you never thought about before as a Marine. But okay, I understood that. And Quantico wasn't too bad. Like I said, I was newly married, had my first child while I was there working at Quantico. So it was a lot of family time that I got to understand as part of that as the Marine Corps as well. Maybe one of the reasons why I ended up staying in. So.
Yeah, and the family aspect of the Marine Corps is not easy on everybody. That's a tough job, but being able to be successful with that is something incredible, in my opinion. So,
yeah, that was one of the things that a place like Quantico allows for at least for officers. They come back here a lot. Come back for school, for expeditionary warfare school or command and staff college or something like that. Spending a year here, and it's a lot. It's time to recover from a fleet tour a little bit.
Yeah, kind of like a little bit of a break at least.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was Quantico. Not too much else. I mean, there's a lot of memorable things that happened at Quantico, but good leadership was probably the thing that I was blessed with there.
Right.
Watching people and learning what the right thing to do is. I remember one time, Colonel Fox. So yeah, I had one of the gunnies that they had brought in to work at the career course was not getting along with my first sergeant. They had a they were two bulls, I think,
Right.
And so first sergeant's like, "Hey, sir, I can't deal with this guy. We're going to get rid of him. We got to get rid of him." I was like, "Okay." So I bring him in and tell him, "Hey, we're going to move you someplace else to this gunnery sergeant." Then I go tell Colonel Fox, that I've told this gunny he's got to go someplace else. And he looks at me and he says, you did, he said, after I, and he had a couple of expletives in there, to get him here, I had to do all this to get this guy here. And you told him he was done. I'm like, okay, well, I guess he can come back, sir. I said, no, he can't come back. You told him he's gone. He can't come back now. Yeah. Like, okay. I learned something there. I guess I need to talk to other people sometimes before I make a decision about firing somebody. But Colonel Fox, he was terrific. But yes, I learned that from him.
Yeah, that's amazing. I don't think I don't think about that side of the officer side very often. Yeah. It's definitely a different world, and I like hearing about it. So it's good.
Yeah.
Wow. Now, what was the assignment? Where did you end up going after Quantico?
Yeah, so I ended up going back to the fleet. Normally, I would have gone to what was then called AWS, Amphibious Warfare School, which is what I thought I might go to AWS, and but was not chosen to go to AWS. So okay, we're not going to AWS. Where so wait, what do you want to do? And they said, well, we're gonna go back to fleet. I said, absolutely. Yeah, send me back to the fleet. That'd be great. So I go right back to Camp Lejeune, and this was really the place where I. My most formative years. So I'm a captain now. It's 1986, and I get assigned to 3rd Battalion, 6th Marines.
Ooh, a storied battalion there.
And I'm like the last captain I'm the junior guy. I'm the youngest guy because I hadn't been to AWS yet. So at this point, I got 6 or 7 years in the Marine Corps. I guess only 6. I guess I just got 6 years in the Marine Corps. So I'm back at Camp Lejeune as a young captain, and I go in with the XO and say, yeah, I want to be a company commander. And he's like, you're going to be the 3 Alpha, which, the assistant operations officer.
Right.
I want to be a company commander. I said, but you're going to be the 3 Alpha. I said, okay. So we're going to see the battalion commander. I say, hey, I want to be the company commander. He says, yeah, you're going to be the 3 Alpha. And I was like, yes, sir. So I go down to be the assistant operations officer. And my boss is Major Tom Waldhauser. At the time. Okay. General Waldhauser retired as a 4-star general later on. His last job was at the combatant commander for U.S. Africa Command recently. Okay. So he became a 4-star general. Lima Company at that time in 3-6 was led by Joe Dunford. The introduction. Yeah. Weapons Company was led by Mark Gerganis, who ended up retiring as a 2-star general.
Wow.
The adjutant was Fred Padilla. He retired as a 3-star general. And I'm the 3 Alpha. And so there's been these units like this in the Marine Corps with other cohorts that a lot of them go on to become generals out of the same unit, same time.
Right.
I don't know what it is, but it's like when you join a team that has good chemistry and everything's working, and the new guy checks in and it's like, hey, I thought this is how every unit worked. Right. This is what every unit was like. I didn't know 3-6 was anything special at the time, but these guys were all great. And they fed off each other, and so the whole, it kind of raises all boats when you go into a unit like that. I think the same is true the other way. If you join a unit that is screwed up, it's kind of hard sometimes to turn it around. As a member of that unit, you end up kind of suffering through until something changes. But this outfit was great. Battalion commander was a guy named Larry Zinzer, who retired as a colonel, and I still see him every so often now.
Oh, nice.
And he was terrific. But what it was, I don't know what it was about him that enabled all of these young officers at the time to learn the right lessons and be able to go on to be such great examples in the Marine Corps.
Right.
But that's where I could watch guys like Tom Waldhouse and Joe Dunford work. And as the 3 Alpha, I'm kind of the company commander in waiting is how it is. You're there
I see.
working
Yeah.
the operations at the battalion level, but you get to see all the companies work. And then eventually Joe Dunford got transferred out a year later. And I took Lima Company from him. So I ended up with Lima Company 36 for 24 months or a little more as a company commander, which was awesome. That was really the greatest tour, was being in charge of the company of Marines.
That's incredible. And just so many incredible Marines all together in one place.
Yeah. And still good
amazing.
friends today, which is great. You know, it's pretty amazing. So I was very fortunate that I had great examples of leadership early on as a lieutenant, and then this time as a captain. It was pretty exciting. Yeah.
Now, do you do deployments with them as well?
Yeah. So we were getting ready to do what was back then called SOC MAU. So it was before MUSOC became a thing. Before Special Operations Capable MUs was the very beginning of that. And Mike Myatt was the MAU commander. And so we were kind of creating there was no playbook for MUSOC. For those that know, there's a set of missions that is now that all MUs train to.
Right.
But there wasn't one back then. We were kind of creating that list of things. So we were early on the MAUSOC, but it was a med deployment. So we boarded ships, and I was on the big deck. I was the Incheon. I think it was the Incheon, the Inchworm.
Okay.
So we were on the Incheon and went to the Mediterranean and did lots of training events and port calls. This is the time when med floats were awesome because you'd sail from country to country, stop into Corsica, train with the French Marines, and then have some liberty, somewhere in France. And then you'd stop in Spain, train with the Spanish Marines, and then have liberty in Spain. And then do the same thing in Italy or some other country around the Med. And you just floated around the Med and did training the whole time. It was awesome.
Wow.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was a great deployment.
Golly. Now, you just did that one once?
Yeah, I did that one once. And then we came back from that deployment, swapped out. That's when I took Lima Company. And then we went back to UDP, Okinawa, Unit Deployment Program to Okinawa as a battalion the second time. So I was a company commander on Okinawa. And we got to go to Korea and Japan and some other places to train off of Okinawa while we were there. In 87. That deployment, I guess, was 88, 89. That deployment was. That was our cycle back then. You would do 6-month deployment, come back for a year or so, do another 6-month deployment, come back for a year or so, and sometimes more than a year. It was relative. Again, pieces breaking all over. Yes, we had Beirut, but if you weren't one of the ones that was in Beirut or went there, then not everybody went to Beirut. Similar with Grenada, if you didn't go to that one, you didn't go to that one. These weren't wars where everybody went. These were wars where some people went.
Right. Yeah.
And we ended up in Panama right before Just Cause in 1989. After we got back from Okinawa, we went down to Panama. That was great too. But that was a terrific tour in 3rd Battalion, 6th Marines. It really was.
Yeah, a lot of learned lessons throughout that time as well.
Yeah, absolutely. It was great. Wow. We used to train in Korea. And this is back in the day. You could go out in town, and we were down in Pohang in the southern part of Korea for Marines. Camp Muchuk, for those that have been to Korea, which has changed a bit now. I've been there recently, and it's a big base with big brick buildings. Back then, it was wooden sea huts, we called them. A couple steps up from the mud. It was Camp Mudchuk, is what we called it, because it was not really paved. It was just sea huts on dirt. And but what you'd do is you'd stay there at night in these wooden barracks, basically.
Right.
Go out and train all day, live fire, which every Marine loves. You're out shooting live rounds.
Oh, yeah.
Come back in, head into the Ville at night in camis, get drunk. Some people would find a lady, head back to camp. Next day, do it all over again. I mean, and this is what Marines were living for: shoot live rounds and go get a beer and come back. It was great.
Wow.
That was Korea training back in the mid 80s, late 80s.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, that's a good time. Now Now you at this point, your wife, did she come back down to Lejeune with you? As well?
So,
Your wife and child?
she was working for Naval Air Systems Command. She's an engineer, and so she was working in DC. So she was able to get a job at Cherry Point while we're in Lejeune this time. So she's driving to Cherry Point, but that was great because she was working there. I was working at Camp Lejeune, and then so she came back down. So we from then on, we pretty much decided we were not going to geo-batch. In other words, we're going to go wherever we're going to go. And after this tour, after our second child's born down at Camp Lejeune, it's funny, I tell people I have 2 tours at Lejeune and 1 at Lejeune because the whole naming thing. The last time I was there was Lejeune, but the first 2 times was Lejeune. So we had our second child. And so when we leave in 89 to go back to DC, she stopped working as an engineer and really took the next, 15 years off. So, because we were moving around a lot and we had 2 kids. And so she raised the kids and moved around a lot. And then she ended up switching careers when she went back to work later on when our second child was in high school and she started to go back to work. She ended up becoming a school teacher. So.
Oh, no kidding. Wow.
Yeah. But we made that whole thing work. She's terrific. My wife is, and the whole Marine Corps family and the kids and everything. I mean, it really isn't much different than it always has been. I'll tell a story later on when we get to that point about, they call you up and say, hey, it's time to go. You got to go. And so you end up deploying and see ya, leave everybody behind, But,
absolutely. Wow. So you went back to Quantico again after you were with 6th Marines.
So they sent me to AWS. So they decided, okay, now you can go to AWS. Okay. So now I'm a senior captain for what that's called, whatever. But I've been a captain a while. And they sent me to Amphibious Warfare School where I'm supposed to learn how to be a captain. And I was like, okay, I already
where you've been doing it with some of the greatest some of the greatest already.
And Tom Waldhauser, who was my boss down at 3-6 for a while, he ends up as one of the instructors at AWS when I'm there. So link up with him again. Anyway, so and really because I had a lot of experience in doing the stuff they teach you at AWS, I ended up being the honor grad at AWS, but it was by not because of any intelligence, just as kind of seen the movie. I know how this ends. I can tell you what's going to happen. But so I had 1 year there at Quantico at AWS. So back to Quantico for 1 year.
Okay, very nice. And now, as far as the schoolhouse goes, while you're there, were you in charge? Like you're a senior guy, were you in charge of everybody there? Does it work different?
I was not the president of our class. Somebody was senior in rank to me.
Okay,
and I think I was the president of my conference group. But we were all captains. It was great. And so I didn't have a responsibility as the senior Marine in the class.
Yeah, that's always a pain in the butt. Leading your peers and trying to wrangle them is not necessarily an easy task. So
right. But again, the guy in charge of AWS at that time was Butch Neal, who ends up becoming a 4-star general. I mean, it's just
wow.
The Marine Corps. I don't know how I got lucky enough to be in places where these guys who were just really good people they end up going on to do great things in the Marine Corps. So. I guess maybe you just forget the ones that are in between that don't go on to do great things. You just don't remember them as much. So
that's a good point. Yeah, that happens too, I suppose.
Yeah.
So at that time, then where did you get orders to? Like where were they going to send you?
Yeah, well, so they you can't go back to the fleet, right? They're like, hey, you just came from the fleet. You're not going back to the fleet. It's like, okay, what do you want to do? And so it's wide open. Really, it's like wide open. I said, okay, how about Marine security guard duty? I'm like, okay,
nice.
So I go out as a captain. I'm still a captain. We were captains a long time back in the day. I was a captain for 7.5 years, and it wasn't.
Oh wow!
It wasn't because I got passed over. It's just that's how long it took to make major.
Right?
It takes a while.
That's a long time.
Yeah. Well, we're down to like 10 years to major now. Back then it was 12.5 years to major before you're. That's just what it was. But again, it's a factor of. I don't know, but what we needed at the time in the Marine Corps. But anyway, so still a captain. I said, okay, you're going to Marine security guard duty. So I got assigned over in Frankfurt, Germany, which was, we had responsibility for the embassies in the eastern part of Europe. So from Germany over to Russia. It's 1990. So the wall came down in 89.
Right.
In 1991, the Soviet Union collapses, and there's like a little civil war going on there. And so, but all those countries that were used to be Soviet bloc, Poland, Romania, Bulgaria, Yugoslavia, they were no longer part of the Soviet Union. They were their own countries.
Right.
So it was kind of the Wild West, because things were still figuring out. The governments were figuring out how to run and everything, which was great. But we were headquartered in Frankfurt. It was 2 captains, a lieutenant colonel, and a first sergeant, and a corporal. I think we're in the
Holy
office
cow.
in Germany, and then all the embassies. And so we had 20 embassies that we were responsible for going around and basically inspecting. So you're just traveling around, making sure that the Marines are being taken care of by the embassy, that the Marines are doing what they're supposed to be doing. You run a PFT, you check out uniforms, you do all that kind of stuff.
Right.
Talk to the Marines, make sure everything's good. But the good news was, now I'm going to all these countries. So the family went. So my wife, 2 daughters, we're all living in Frankfurt, Germany, in a little apartment in the city. And but I'm traveling to all these countries, which is great.
Yeah.
And I'm doing it with a diplomatic passport and a lot of help. So the embassies would arrange to pick me up at the airport for whatever. So here I am, a captain, and I'm getting picked up at the airport in Warsaw, Poland, and driven over to a hotel where I'm staying, and then driven over to the embassy to see the Marines and all this kind of stuff. It was a little surrealistic. You had to keep your wits about you. But the Marines on embassy duty have the same challenge. Right. So some of the, I don't know, you were a Marine security guard, were you?
No, I was not. No.
So, I mean, great duty, great opportunity to see the world. But they're out there with just a few Marines and a bunch of State Department people, and some of the Marines start to forget they're a Marine a little bit, and that's what the jet commander's responsibility is, to remind them of who they are, what they're there for,
I mean, that's a difficult task, especially young Marines. They get engrossed with all that, and then it can go downhill quickly if there's not somebody there to kind of keep them in check.
It can. That's right. That's right. But that's what the deck commander does. And depending on the embassy, how well they're taken care of how well the Marines are taken care of by the embassy, and how much they love their Marines or not. It's usually the hardship posts, the ones that are dangerous or out in the middle of nowhere, where they love the Marines, because the Marines are this tight group, and one, they need them because it's risk.
True.
And 2, they're just a great group. You get them at a place like Geneva or Cairo or London, there's 1,000 people working in the embassy, and all they think about the Marine is, why are you check my badge when I come in every day? Why are you harassing me about storing my classified material, and that kind of stuff, as opposed to we need you, we love you, the Marines that are there. So, but the Marines get to live in those places. They get to live in Switzerland or all that stuff. So MSG duty is a great duty.
And I'm assuming your family liked it over there as well.
Yeah, it was a great experience to live in Germany. And now back then there were a lot of American stuff in Germany. In Frankfurt, there was, because the army was all over Germany. And it's reduced a whole lot now, but we had, it was PX within close driving distance, commissary, gas station. So a lot of things made it very simple to live there in Germany, even though we were in an apartment, not on a base. It was very easy to get what we needed.
Right. Wow, that's pretty cool.
And they got to travel all over Europe, because you drive everywhere. Right. So you can drive to Wood, you can drive to, Munich, or down to Berchtesgaden or someplace. And we did. So.
Wow. That's awesome.
In my 1989 Jeep Cherokee, I forget what year it was. Maybe it was 86.
Okay.
A Jeep Cherokee, shipped it over to Germany. It was driving it around Germany. It was great.
That's
we had
awesome.
a dog and a cat. We had everything. It was regular. Move the family over there. Good.
Yeah. That's good stuff. And you did that for how many? 3 years?
No, just 2 years. It was a 2-year assignment, and then got ordered back to, and that's when I became the MOI at the University of Texas. Was in '92. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So I'm making major now. Finally going to make major, and they say, well, now you can't come back to the fleet. And I was like, okay, what are you going to do with me? And because it's not time yet for me to go back to the fleet. Okay. I said, well, how about MOI duty? Marine officer instructor at an ROTC unit. I don't know why that thought came up, but okay, it did. And they said, okay, you can go MOI duty. So you know how monitors are. So the monitor says, okay, how about Georgia Tech? I'm like, hey, Georgia Tech's great. We'll go to Atlanta. I'll be the MOI at Georgia Tech. Sounds good. Okay. So about 2 weeks later, he calls back, says, oh, hey, sorry, I can't send you to Georgia Tech. How about Boston University? And I'm thinking, okay, I don't really want to go to Boston. Not really from there. But okay, Boston University's fine. Calls me back same day. Hey, sorry, can't send you to Boston. How about SUNY in the Bronx, Texas Tech, Prairie View, University of Texas at Austin, and one other one that I can't remember. And I said, okay, fine. University of Texas, Austin, Texas Tech, Prairie View, that's fine. And so the music stops, and it's University of Texas at Austin. And I'm thinking, I've never been to Austin, Texas, and this is 1992. And I'm thinking prairie dogs and tumbleweeds, in my mind. That is not Austin, Texas.
Right.
Austin is gorgeous. And back then it was even more gorgeous than it is now, just because it was not nearly as built up and crowded as it is today.
Mm-hmm.
But so we end up in Austin, Texas, of all places, with the family. And I'm a Marine officer instructor at the University of Texas for 3 years.
Wow. Now, if you're the Marine officer instructor, is it just like you're the actual CO type of thing?
No, for the
detachment.
You're part of the Navy ROTC unit, so it's run by a Navy captain, and there's 3 or 4 other Navy officers there, and a couple of petty officers, and then it's you as a Marine major. I had a gunny as my assistant MOI, and that's it.
Wow.
Now there's an OSO in town. A guy named Eric Smith, who currently is the commandant of the Marine Corps, was Captain.
I've heard of him.
Was the OSO in Austin at the time, so that's when I first met him. It's '92, and so it's a small Marine Corps,
yeah, it is.
And but not a lot. But then there's the Marine community in Austin, the retired Marine or veteran Marine community there. But that was just a great assignment. It's another one of these assignments where you spend a lot of time with your family because you're working at a college, but it's really the work schedule is very focused on the students. All the midshipmen are going to college, so you're teaching a couple classes and you're teaching drill, and there's a lot of administration of the students and things you do. But it's not like you have them all day because they're going to class,
right?
So have some MECEP students there, Marine Corps Enlisted Commissioning Education Program, which is a great one. You got sergeants and staff sergeants that are there going to school, and they're active duty Marines. So obviously we're taking care of them and managing them while they're there. But another just really good tour. It's kind of funny though. MOI duty back then had a reputation of you did that kind of before you retired. And I understand why now. So, because somebody came up to me at some point and says, "Well, are you retiring?" And I was like, "No, I never." But you're a major. You're kind of out of the Marine Corps. They don't see you, so you're one of one on a fitness report. You're the only major being reviewed, and so you're it. Where other majors are back here slaving away at headquarters Marine Corps in the Pentagon or someplace. Getting a reputation for themselves and making a name or competing, and I'm out in Texas where nobody knows who I am, but it worked out okay in the end. I ended up being the MOI of the year at some point just because they do that kind of thing. Okay. And again, ran into a bunch of people that I had relationships with for a long time, even until today. And one of my midshipmen, I commissioned him, and then I retired him 20 years later, and I was still
no kidding.
And I was like, holy cow, there's a wake up call. You know, I'm a major.
Wow.
And when I commissioned him, I'm still now on active duty, and he's retiring already after 20
That's
years.
amazing.
You know, so it was a long time, but yeah, that was
That
a
is
great
so
story.
cool.
Yeah.
Wow. What were some of your best memories down in Texas, whether it be with the Marines down there or with the family?
Yeah, we had a couple things. So we had we get a lot of time to PT and do that kind of thing, and so we used to run an Ironman there at Texas and invite other MOI units to come and compete, and it was this combination of I think we did a 3-mile run around the campus, and then you ran up the ramps in the stadium to the top. Then you had to do 100 push-ups, and then you ran back down and ran another 3 miles. And then you had to do 40 pull-ups, and then you went and swam in the pool for 500 yards or something, and then ran another 3 miles, and then you do 100 sit-ups or something. It was a thing like that. It was like one of these long events, and so we used to run that every year at the University of Texas, which was awesome. Ran a couple marathons while I was there.
Oh, wow.
So it was a time when I was I 30? I forget how old I was. This is 92 to 95. I guess I was 34, 35 years old already. But anyway, at that point, I felt like I was kind of in the prime of life, ready to go, you know, and you're around all these youngsters, the college students, which is great. Yeah, what else was going on? A lot of good lessons there. At one point, the executive officer of the unit was a Marine. So it's usually a Navy commander, but it was a Marine lieutenant colonel who came in as the XO. And he ended up becoming an alcoholic while we were there. And so at one point, and I knew something was wrong, you know, because I see him all the time. And at one point, the Navy captain who's in charge, he comes in, sits down in my office. He goes, "Yeah, hey, we got a problem with, you know, Lieutenant Colonel so and so." I was like, "Yes, sir." And he says, "What do you want to do?" I said, "Well, we'll get him help." And you know, so we got him into a program, you know, and some way for a rehab program or something, and that was the end of that. But I don't know where he is.
Wow.
But you know, it's just paying attention to folks and seeing who they are. The other thing I learned, seeing an 18-year-old college freshman walk in and thinking, there is no way this guy's going to be a Marine Corps officer. You know, there's just no way. And then watching them change and grow over 4 years in college, or 3 years I was there. And that one guy I was talking about ended up retiring as a colonel in the Marine Corps. And because
no kidding,
they change a lot from the time you're just out of high school at 18 years old to the time you can become an officer and move on. There's a lot of growing that happens there. So that was a great experience.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a really valuable time to understand how to do that. And plus, teaching is great. I love teaching. Teaching is another Marine Corps thing. Marines love to teach. So,
right. Yeah, absolutely. Now, so what year did you leave there?
95.
95.
So in the middle of this, I missed Desert Storm. So we're in Germany on Marine Security Guard duty when Desert Storm kicks off. And so when the other captain there, Greg Dunlap's the other captain on the staff, we're like, oh, we got to go. You know, everybody's going to Saudi Arabia. We got to go. So we're writing letters and calling the monitor saying, hey, you need to send us. You know, they need us down there. And of course, the Marine Corps was like, yeah, no, you're good. Just do what you're doing. You're doing exactly. So we missed the war. I watched, you know, the beginning of the air campaign on CNN, on TV, and thinking,
no kidding,
my life is over because every Marine has gone to war except for me, you know.
Right.
And we missed Desert Storm because we're inspecting skivvies in Europe instead of. But
you know, and that's a tough feeling, you know, especially now you're going to go from MOI duty. Now you're going back to the fleet, and all these guys, they were there, they've done it, you know, and that's a tough transition to walk into that, not having done it.
Yep. Fortunately, it was a quick war, but still, I didn't have any of those ribbons, medals, didn't have any of that stuff, you know.
They got a lot back then too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's 95 when I finished MOI duty, and no, I wasn't planning to retire. That thought had not crossed my mind. So I ended up going, where did I go after that? I guess did I go to Command and Staff College from MOI duty? Yeah, I guess I did. I guess I went right to Command and Staff College, which is amazing. Yeah, it was 95. I went to Command and Staff College. And so I lived in a little duplex at Quantico. So the officers, when you come for 1 year at a school at Quantico, they'll give you housing on base, but it's a tiny little house, tiny little duplex. And so my duplex, we shared a duplex with Dave Berger, who former commandant. We were both majors, so he was on one side with his 4 kids who were, all elementary school and younger. And I was on the other side with my 2 daughters, which were elementary school and younger, and lived there for a year. He was going to school, and I was going to school at Command and Staff College. So had a year again with them. That was great. So it's just the Marine Corps is very good about, just togetherness and making friends that last a long time if you hang out long enough.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So then finally they get to go back to the fleet though. So after Command and Staff College, they finally say, hey, you can go back to the fleet. It's like, okay. It says, where do you want to go? I said, send him back to Lejeune. That's where I was. I was a lieutenant down there. I was a company commander down there. Love it. Know everything. You're going to Pendleton. It's like, okay. Back then they're like, okay, fine. So I go out to Pendleton and I join 2nd Battalion, 1st Marines 2-1 out of Corno at Camp Pendleton and as the XO. So I'm the battalion XO at 2-1 for the next year plus before I got promoted to Lieutenant Colonel and pulled up to the division staff at 1st Marine Division. So this is 96 to 98, I guess, time frame is when we're out at Pendleton. Right. And everything's good. Drive across country with the, 2 dogs and a cat or whatever in the car and the family.
Right.
And get out there to Pendleton. Great life as a major, deployed to, we did a Westpac deployment on ship as 2-1.
Okay.
So we went, no, not a Westpac. I'm sorry. It was a Persian Gulf deployment. So we went across the Pacific and then around the Indian Ocean and all the way up into the Persian Gulf and stopped in glorious places like Jebel Ali and UAE, Saudi Arabia. Did that for a 6-month deployment on board ship.
Wow.
Yeah. It was US Boxer.
Were you getting off and doing training as well, or?
We were a lot of training exercises in Saudi Arabia, UAE, Jordan. Spent a lot of time in the desert in Jordan. That was a lot of fun. Chasing, out there, it's just a big desert. The training area in Jordan is just a big flat desert. And so they just stake it off. But Jordan's full of Bedouin that are driving their sheep across, and they just travel across the place. And so my job every morning as the XO was to get in the helicopter, fly around the impact area where we were going to go train and shoot all the stuff, and see if there's any Bedouins out there. And I had a Jordanian major that went with me. And if we saw a Bedouin camp, we'd land the helicopter, we'd walk over and start talking to them, have a little tea and say, hey, we're going to start shooting in here later on today. And it'd be good if you weren't here, and many times they're like, yeah, no, we're staying. I'm like, okay.
Really?
So I mark it on my map. Here's the no fire area or whatever. You put a little circle around it, and then we fly off to the next place, and then we try not to shoot any Bedouins that are out there in the desert.
That's wild.
Yeah, it was fun. When you're overseas, you can do a lot of stuff like that, training with our allies, and friends, and partners overseas. That was a great deployment as well. That was good. That was Pendleton the first time at Pendleton. I lived there as a child. I was went to 8th and 9th grade out there. My father was a battalion commander. In fact, he was the battalion commander at 2-1 when I was in middle school and 9th grade, Oceanside High. And then I ended up being the XO at 2-1 later on. So I'm walking past his portrait, his photograph on the wall.
Yeah, every day.
He had gotten out by now. So he retired in 1989. And so I'd been in the Marine Corps for 9 years or so when he retired. And he took the job as president of the Marine Corps Association when he retired.
Yeah.
I remember thinking at the time, boy, what a great deal. He gets to retire and still support the Marine Corps from the outside and be a part of helping the Marine Corps out. That's just great, and he ended up doing that. But he had 2-1, and so I was the XO 2-1 for a while. But then I get promoted to lieutenant colonel, and so they pull me up to division staff to work in the G3 shop at the division.
Right.
Jay Paxton was the 3 for a while. Another guy who retired as a 4-star general and is still running around out here. It was good. Oh, my sergeant major was Estrada, who became sergeant major of the Marine Corps later.
No kidding.
Sergeant major at 2-1.
Wow.
Yeah, when I was the XO. Yeah, that was a good time. That was a good deployment.
You went around with a bunch of heavy hitters.
It is. It's crazy how fortunate I've been. When I was a battalion commander later, my sergeant major was Kim Davis, who also stayed around forever, ended up being a sergeant major for a 3 or 4-star command somewhere before he retired. And then later on I had Zikafus as a sergeant major.
Oh yeah.
Hugh as a sergeant major. These are all guys that were, I don't know, I didn't pick them. I'm just been blessed to fall in on people that were terrific. Wow. Under a lucky star, I guess. So that deployment in 2-1, or that assignment at 2-1 was just 2 years long, because I made lieutenant colonel, and then they sent me back to Quantico to go to school. Actually, DC to go to school, to War College as a lieutenant colonel.
The
National War College. Ended up going there, and then into the Pentagon for an assignment.
When you go to that college, you get a degree coming out of that?
Yeah, they give you a master's degree out of there.
Do they?
And I got one out of command and staff as well. So that was my second master's degree, both out of military, assignments, which is terrific.
I didn't know that they did that for the other. I thought it was just
college. You did not have to do the work to get a master's, but if you did the extra work to get a master's, they would award a master's degree to you. And I think maybe everybody does now. I'm not sure, but National War College, everybody there received a master's degree. Yeah, and that was, again, a year of school is a great time. And then I end up over in the Pentagon because that's National War College. Usually what happens to you after that school is they put you in the Pentagon working some policy job. So I did. I worked in a little office that was called the Strategy Office for the Department of Defense. Okay. So I was strategy, So.
Just strategize while you were there.
It's kind of what I was like. Okay. And so the ACMAC brought me in. Actually, the guy who worked for the ACMAC brought me into his office as I'm coming over from Command and Staff College. From National War College, and I was supposed to get this job in policy. And he says, "Okay, look, these guys are pissed at us, so don't screw it up. This is what I want you to tell them when you go down there. Because this is the civilian side of OSD, not the Marine Corps side. It's the civilian side of Secretary of Defense. So don't screw it up, kind of thing. Okay, got it. So, but I go down there and it's like an interview. It's not like an assignment. I go in and they're like, well, what is it that you like to work on? I'm like, okay, whatever the job is, that's what I'll do. Well, what topics are you interested in? Nuclear proliferation or small wars, or these kind of questions are like, okay, I've read the national security strategy. I understand what we're doing. So I said something that was acceptable, I guess. So they go, okay, I guess we'll take you then. It's like, okay, so I get the job, As a lieutenant colonel, I didn't know I was interviewing for it, but okay, I got it. And a small little office in the middle of the Pentagon, no windows, and yes. So what does the strategy office do? Everything from little things to big things, which is pretty funny when when you're close to the Secretary of Defense in hierarchy.
Right.
You do everything from, so you're an action officer. So I come from,
I see.
I'd been a battalion XO, I'd been out in the fleet, I'd done a lot of things. Now it's like, okay, we need to write a thank you note from the secretary to this guy who sent him a book. Okay,
wow.
Who's gonna do that? Okay, I guess I'm gonna do that. So typing the thank you note and sending it up there to be signed. or you're working on the quadrennial defense review, and all the services have huge teams that are vying for what they want to have done in the review, because we're going to grow the MEFs, or we're going to get this many more F-22s or whatever. And it all gets consolidated into a document that eventually comes to like our office to like edit. So now we've got the power of the pen to like edit this thing. And
wow.
And we were sworn to secrecy. You may not talk to the services about what we're doing. So the Marine Corps is like, hey, Lukeman, you're coming back to the Marine Corps after this. What's going on? So I'm like, well, I can't betray my trust. So why don't you ask me a question about what might be in it, and I could answer your question, but I can't tell you what's in it. So I have this thing back and forth, and at this point, I'm working with Frank McKenzie, who again retired, Star General, I think. Frank was in charge of the Marine Corps QDR that year, and another guy. So without betraying any trust, we were able to make sure the Marine Corps understood what was going on in the quadrennial defense review. So you're doing everything from little stuff to big stuff in this office, but great people in there.
That's wild.
And so it was at that point, it was a Democratic administration. Some of the policy people that work in that office, it changes. So when the Republicans come in, then they are all gone. When George Bush comes in, they're all gone. And then when George Bush leaves and Obama, they all come back. And so these people, they're defense policy professionals, that's their job. That's what they went to college for, and that's what they know how to do. Civilians, and that's what they know how to do. But when their administration changes, a lot of them go out into think tanks and work in think tanks doing things, and they come back.
I see.
So the young GS-12s, GS-13s that were in the office end up coming back later as, senior executives in higher positions. And eventually, one of the women, Kath Hicks, worked with us in our office. I think she was a GS-14 then. She ended up being Deputy Secretary of Defense later on.
Oh, wow.
Christine Wormuth was a GS-12, I think, or 13. She ends up being the Secretary of the Army later on. Amanda Dory was a GS-12, great friend. She ends up being Undersecretary of Defense for Policy, I think, at one point. So, they're all in these, they move up as time goes on. So it was really interesting. You never know where you're going to see people again later on.
That brings something to mind, though, talking about the possibility of burning bridges. As you were, especially in the officer world, I think there's a lot more going on there. When it comes to making sure you don't burn bridges and being able to do that. Like, how did you navigate all that?
Yeah. I never thought about it until now in retrospect. With the benefit of time, you realize that these people you see again and again and again later on. I never thought about it at the time, but obviously the lesson is just, treat everybody as if, the best quote, it's not about this one exactly, but one of my favorite quotes from General Mattis is, treat every Marine and sailor as if they're the one who'll save your life. And that advice goes to a whole lot of different things. So not just the literal, you treat every Marine as if they're the one to save your life, because they might be the one to save your life.
Right.
But when you're running NJP as a battalion commander or company commander, and the guy has screwed up, for sure. And so they're going to get punished. But you still need to treat them as if they're the one that's going to save your life. So you do that without tearing them down as a person or a human being. It's pretty clear. You screwed up, you deserve to be punished. So one, you don't do it again. And so others too, so others don't do it. Right. So this is what happens. So, you screwed up, you're getting punished, and then we move on. But it's not like you're worthless. You never tear somebody down. So always treating people with respect. When you're working for a senior officer that is difficult, one of your bosses is difficult, that's a harder lesson to learn how to navigate that, right?
Oh yeah.
How to do the best you can. One, do the best you can to take care of the unit. So if the commander's not good, then somebody needs to step up. That might be you or somebody else to fill the void when that guy's not doing his job. but then understanding that, over time, either you're going to get orders or he's going to get orders, and things will change. So,
right.
So suck it up, do the best you can. I had a couple of young officers came to me at different times in my career, because the Marine Corps goes through these cycles where they have different needs for MOSs. And so a lot of times they're like, hey, we got too many infantry officers. We'll let you stay a Marine, but you're going to become a public affairs officer, or you're going to become an admin.
Oh, right.
And they forcibly change your MOS. And so a couple lieutenants had come to me different times saying, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to be an admin. I'm getting out. I'm not going to be an admin officer. And but said, well, you like being a Marine? I love the Marine Corps. Then just stick it out. I said, the Marine Corps comes around, goes around. Just keep telling people what you want. Stay in the Marine Corps. Tell them you want to be a grunt. And both these lieutenants, one went to be a public affairs officer, the other one went to be a lieutenant, an admin officer. Both of them ended up being battalion commanders later, infantry battalion commanders later.
Oh, really? Wow.
Back, goes around, comes around. They became infantry officers and then became battalion commanders, and both of them retired as colonels. And so
very nice.
You just got to stick it out, I think, in terms of this idea of if you don't like the situation you're in, just think about what's important.
Wow.
Suck it up for a bit.
Yeah. They always told me, suck it up, Buttercup. Oh,
yep.
Okay. Very nice. So how long were you at the Pentagon?
2 years.
2 years at the Pentagon.
And so at this point, I figure there's a real risk that I'm going to get out as a lieutenant colonel because I had not been a battalion commander. And if you don't command as a battalion commander, as an infantry guy, chances are you're not making colonel. I'm a lieutenant colonel already, but if you don't get selected for command, probably not going to be a colonel, right? So, and I had, by a series of things, I got promoted, went to school. I'm a 2-year assignment in the Pentagon where you're stuck for those 2 years.
Right.
So it got to be, now it's like 4 years, and it got to be, hey, this is the last chance for you. You're not selected for this go around, then you're not going to be a battalion commander. It's like, okay. So I'd come to grips with that. I can stay 26 years and retire as a lieutenant colonel. I'm good with that. I'm happy with that. But lo and behold, somebody does something and they select me as a battalion commander. So 2 years, it's now 2001, before 9/11.
Oh, wow.
Summer 2001. And they say, okay, you're going out to take 1st Battalion, 5th Marines is what I was set to go take in 2001. But so pack up the family again. In the dog and the cat and 2 daughters, and all the stuff on the roof of the minivan, and we're going to take 10 days to drive across country to Pendleton, so I can take 1-5 in a month. And so we're driving across, and we were headed to Niagara Falls because we were going to take that route, and see some sights along the way. And we had cell phones at this point. So this is 2001. Yes, summer 2001. And so the cell phone rings, and my wife happened to be driving, and I'm in the passenger side. So she hears this, yes, sir? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay, I'll call you back. And she looks at me, she's like, what? So it turns out my commander, 5th Marines, just happens to be a guy named Joe Dunford, who, again, we were company commanders together. He's the CO of 5th Marines. And so he calls me up and says, hey, the battalion commander of 2-5, Rick Detriquet, great guy. They had just deployed to Okinawa to be part of the 31st MEU, the BLT for 31st MEU. And they had just gone in July, early July. And his son was diagnosed with leukemia, and Rick needs to come home, because it's serious. And so I want you to go to 2-5 in Okinawa instead of 1-5 in a month. Like,
wow. Okay.
Okay. You need me to get on a plane in Chicago and fly to Okinawa or what? And we got our household goods are on the way from Virginia to California. We got no quarters. We got no house in California, no quarters or anything yet. And so he says, no, just get out here. And I said, well, if you could help us with, the housing a little bit, that'd be great, before I go. And so we get out there, we get to, so instead of driving our 10 days wherever,
Right.
just be like, across the country to Pendleton, 14 hours a day in the car. But anyway, so we get there. We got there on Thursday. The household goods came Friday. We got quarters on Friday, and the household goods came on Saturday, and I left on Sunday and flew to Okinawa. So
holy cow!
Left it all with the wife and daughters at Pendleton. So
Man.
It was great. They did terrific. They did what they do, and so I joined 2-5 on Sunday, and we had the first MUSOC exercise on Monday. And I didn't know the MU commander, a guy named Mike Lowe. Never met him before in my life, and he never met me. So here's the unknown battalion commander rolls in, and I meet all the NCOs and officers on like Sunday afternoon, and then we roll into the briefing on Monday. And I told him, I said, look, we're not slowing down one bit because I'm new. You guys have been through this whole training process. You know what you're doing. We're just going to keep on. If he turns to me, like I know he's going to, and say, this is a BLT mission, can you be ready to brief in 6 hours, which was the standard? It's like, yes, sir. I'm just going to say, yes, sir. And we're going to go through it, right? And so we did. And it worked out great, And so I met the MU commander and took the battalion. And then 9/11 happens while we're deployed to Okinawa.
Oh wow! Okay.
31st MU, and but that was a terrific time as a battalion commander, but very unexpected, just because of the way it turned out.
Right. Wow. Now, how was that for you guys being on the MU, and then now 9/11 happens, we're going to war, like you guys are in Oki. What was the feeling, and how was that going?
Yeah. So. That's exactly what nobody knew what was going on. And so the word is, okay, load up on the ships and get to sea. So there's a typhoon blowing through Okinawa. So we're out there trying to stage gear and vehicles and load the ships in the typhoon down there on Okinawa. But we did. And so we load everything up on the ships and we go to sea. And it's like, okay, now what are we going to do? So we're deployed. We're ready. We're a MU and we got the BLT, we got the wing. We're all ready to go. And so we go. They tell us to go to Indonesia and be ready to do a NEO of Jakarta if all the Muslim nations rise up or something. Nobody knew what was going to happen after 9/11, and so so we head to Indonesia and we float around there for a while, pull into East Timor, do some humanitarian relief stuff at East Timor, go to Darwin, Australia. Get our provisions and things and just continue to sail around down there while nothing happened. Meanwhile, the other MUs are going to Afghanistan. So the ones that were 15th MU was already out there in the Pacific. And I guess 26th MU, I think it was, ends up going to Afghanistan as well. But not 31st MU. We stayed down there in the Pacific. And then came back and redeployed in the spring of 2002, I guess, and came back to Pendleton. Okay.
So 2002, you come back, and then did you stay with the unit and then deploy with them again?
No, General Conway broke my heart. So he was the division CG. So I got, because I was so late getting to the battalion, I get selected for colonel. And so I got selected for colonel, and I'm 2-5, and it's now the summer of 2002. And we're not sure we're going to war, but we're pretty sure we're going to war. Nobody really knows at that point what's going on, but we're starting to get ready for Iraq. And meanwhile, people are doing things in Afghanistan right away, but we're getting ready to go to Iraq is the word. So I tell General Conway, just leave me there. I'm good. Promote me. Don't promote me. I don't care. Just leave me in 2-5, and we'll go to war. And he's like, nope. We're pulling you out, putting you up on the division staff. And, Dan O'Donohue is going to take 2-5. So Dan, great guy, good friend, retired as a 3-star general. Dan O'Donohue ends up taking my battalion across the line to Iraq in 2003, and I'm working for General Mattis up on the, because General Conway changes to General Mattis that summer.
Right.
General Mattis takes over, and I'm on the division staff, Blue Diamond, for OIF 1, which was great. It was a great experience, but I would have rather have been a battalion commander with a bunch of friends of mine who were down there as battalion commanders as well.
So if you're out there and you're struggling and you do need some help, you can always dial 988, press option 1. You can always text 838-255 or go to veteranscrisisline.net, click on that chat icon. Any of those options will put you in contact with somebody that can help you out. But remember, one veteran life lost is one too many. I care about you. I know Jim cares about you. The whole veteran community cares about you. So please reach out for help. And if you're out there, you're not struggling, reach out to a buddy you served with, ask them how they're doing. If they need that helping hand, please give it to them. All right, sir, General, you rock. Thank you very much for doing this. Much appreciated.
Thanks, Andrew.
To everybody out there, stay motivated. Change your socks.
Come on, you sons of bitches! Your story needs to be archived also!
Listen to Dan Daly. Tell your story proudly on the Lost Art Project Veterans Voices.